So welcome to our September event. It's Cooking Methods one-on-one, all about our fall favorites. And we always have the honor of having our dietitian team here because we feel like we're fangirling because they're like little celebrities in our hometown. And we love being on here cooking with them. So our lead sponsors are West, Merck, and Daiichi Sankyo. And then, of course, our supporting sponsors are GSK, Lilly, Gilead, Pfizer, and now Immunogen, who is actually going to be a part of AbbVie and is a part of AbbVie. So we thank them so much. It allows us to come out here 3 times a month. Actually, this month we're going to be 5 times strong this month, and allows us to have incredible speakers and ask the experts. And stay tuned. We're going to have a whole little channel soon where we have a surprise for you that we are going to put everything under our umbrella and have this beautiful community that we've created and named that. So we thank our sponsors. So just in case, I'm thinking everyone knows the team here, but I would love to just do a little shout out to our team. If you guys could just raise your hand real quick. We have Erin Pellegrin, who you know, that's our Senior Director of Culinary Nutrition Education. We have Catherine Romano, and she's coming in live from Texas, and she is our Latino Program and Culinary Dietitian Lead. We have Michelle DiCristofaro, Senior Culinary Dietitian, and Aubrey Red, Senior Culinary Dietitian. And then there at the bottom of your screen is our friend, that is Jess Meekum, and she handles development. She is our development manager, and she just wanted to join us real quick because not only do we have a lot going on with our digital platform, but oh boy, we have a lot going on in person too with our events. So Jess, I'm going to actually put you front and center, and let's see if you can do a little bit of a shout out for us.
You got it. Thank you so much. And it's so nice to see some familiar faces and some familiar names. I agree with Sue that I just feel like we are in the presence of celebrities when I get to be here with our registered dietitians. So I'm so happy to be here with them, with all of you. We're so excited. I love getting to come and speak to all of you. So I just wanted to let you know some of our initiatives we have coming up, some fundraisers that we have, and just ways to get involved. So we do have our annual 5K coming up. That's on September 28th. We do have virtual and in-person options. So we would love to see you there in any capacity. We do have our Harvest Chef event that is on November 7th. That will be at the Phoenixville Foundry. We are so excited. That's another amazing event that you certainly want to be a part of if you're able to get there. And then we do have a whole list of community events that you can get and be a part of across the nation. You can find those on our events calendar that you might have found this education piece on, but you can go on, and any event that you see in pink is going to be one of our fundraising events, whether it's a student event, a community event, and you are certainly welcome to take part, ask for more information. We would love to see you be a part of those. And then lastly, if your company is looking to get involved, if you have a student group or anyone that might want to be getting involved with Unite for Her, especially with this being Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, with Breast Cancer Awareness Month being next month, we are happy to provide support. We have box build initiatives, we have fundraising initiatives that we would certainly love to support and take part of. So thank you so much for having me. Thank you for being here and just learning. I'm so excited to hear the rest of the session.
Thank you, Jess. Always good to have you. Always good to have that energy as well. All right, Erin, you are up. We are going to be starting with you, Erin, and you're going to do a savory oat risotto, which sounds amazing, just those words together. So how about if I let you take it away, and I'm going to get both your views up, right? Got your stovetop view as well?
Absolutely. Yep. Because I am cooking on the stovetop. So I already got this dish started because our steel cut oats will take a little bit to cook. So I am doing a savory oat risotto. So if you're looking for a different way to enjoy your steel cut oats, let me tell you, you have to try this recipe. It's absolutely delicious. So before I share a little bit about steel cut oats, let's jump right into our recipe. And then I'll share a little bit of the nutrition information behind this really nutrient whole grain. So like I said, I started this recipe. It's really forgiving, which I really love. And you can personalize this based on your own taste, the ingredients that you have in your refrigerator. So there's lots of ways that you can mix this up. But our base for this to begin with is some cut up onions, some diced onions, cooking in some olive oil. So that's what I have going right now. My stovetop is on medium heat. And I got these started because I really wanted my onions to start cooking and soften. I'm not trying to caramelize them, but I just want them to start getting translucent. I started with half a cup of olive oil, which sounds like a lot, but we're also going to use that to flavor and toast our oats. So that's our next step. So now I've got 2 cups of steel cut oats. So I'll show you what these look like. So we've seen these little kernels before. So this is 2 cups that we're going to add right into our pan with our onions and our olive oil. And we'll give this a mix so that we're sort of toasting and we're allowing our oats to start to take up some of that onion flavor. We're also going to start building our seasoning. So I'm adding some freshly ground black pepper here. And we're adding a little bit of salt. So know that I'll be adding a little bit of cheese later. I'm using some chicken broth, which is unsalted, but I really want to be mindful of the amount of salt that I'm using because I don't want it to be too salty. So we added a little bit of seasoning. We want this to toast. And once we see that all of our oil is taken up and well coated, all of our steel cut oats, we can start to add our liquid. Now, steel cut oats require much more liquid compared to other types of oats like old fashioned or also known as rolled oats. So what I have here is 2.5 cups of, like I said, a no added salt, unsalted chicken stock. You could use any type of stock or broth that you want. You could even use water if you wanted, with plenty of dried herbs for seasoning. So 2.5 cups of unsalted chicken stock and 2.5 cups of water. So starting off with 5 cups of liquid. So all of this will go in. And while it looks really liquidy right now that you're seeing, as it cooks, it will start to absorb all of that liquid. I'm going to bring my heat up to bring this to a simmer, and I will periodically return back to keep stirring this. Now, you may end up having to add some more liquid as it absorbs. After about 20 minutes or so, you can give this a taste. You can test the chew on it. If you feel like it needs more liquid, just keep adding until it gets to the texture that you like, that cooked texture. This is where that versatility comes in. So I will likely add some more chicken broth or some more water to this. And if you need to, that's okay, because it, quantities vary, cooking vessels vary, stovetops vary, kitchens vary. So all of that plays into how much liquid you may need. So just keep going back and giving this a stir. And then once it gets to be fully cooked at the end of this class, we're going to finish this with a little bit of decadence. I'm adding a little bit of butter. I've got fresh herbs here, so I'm using some basil. I've got a little bit of Parmesan Reggiano that I'll be adding. But there's, again, lots of ways that I'll highlight at the end of class about how you can really be creative with this recipe. So before I pass this over to Catherine, I do want to share a little bit just about steel cut oats, because they are really, really nutrient dense and they're a wonderful whole grain. So if you've seen them in the store, you may know that they also go by Scottish or Irish oats. So if you see either of them on a box, it's generally steel cut oats. They tend to have a chewier texture compared to a rolled or a traditional oat, and they have a little bit of a nuttier flavor. And they are part of the kernel of a whole oat, but they've been cut into 2 or 3 pieces using a blade. And so most of that oat is intact for this. You can use steel cut oats in place of just about an oat in any other type of recipe, but know that it'll take a little bit longer for cooking. It'll require a little bit more liquid to it, but that's okay. So again, both rolled oats and steel cut oats are part of the oat family, but they're just processed differently. Steel cut oats generally take 15 to 20 minutes longer to cook, but they are just delicious, that texture and that flavor. They're wildly nutrient dense. So a 1/4 cup dry. So remember, for this recipe, I'm using 2 cups dry. A quarter cup dry yields 150 calories, 5 grams of protein, which is why it's a great way to start
Wow.
your day. It's a great way to get protein. 2.5 grams of fat, heart healthy fat, 27 grams of complex carbohydrates, and 5 grams of fiber. So for those of us that are really focusing on upping our fiber and upping our protein, steel cut oats is a wonderful way to do that. And because of all of those nutrients, there's so many different health benefits that we get from incorporating this into our food choices. So it's good for healthy digestion because of all that fiber. The fiber also supports a healthy gut and a healthy microbiome, which supports our immune system. Because of the type of fiber that we find in steel cut oats, which is soluble fiber, we know that that is related to supporting heart health and lowering cholesterol. Steel cut oats also include a type of fiber called beta glucan, which is also found in other foods like rye, barley, mushrooms, seaweed, and it's got anti-inflammatory properties. It's well linked to supporting both heart health and digestive health. Because it's a complex carbohydrate and there's all that fiber, it's also really supportive of blood sugar control. And actually, steel cut oats are considered a low glycemic food, which means that it will not cause a large spike in your blood sugar after you eat it. So for those of us that are watching our blood sugar, this is a wonderful addition. And then it's naturally gluten-free. So all of our oats are naturally gluten-free for those that have celiac disease or a gluten intolerance. There is a high risk for cross-contamination because these are typically processed in facilities that may be incorporating gluten-free foods or gluten-containing foods into their packaging. So just be mindful for looking for something that says gluten-free on the front, but know that they are naturally a gluten-free product. So much to love about steel cut oats. As you can see, this is starting to boil, which is great. So I'm just going to continue to go back and stir this periodically and let this cook throughout our virtual hangout, add liquid as I need it, and then it should be done by the end of our virtual hangout this evening. So I'll be circling back at the end, but in the meantime, let me grab my spatula because I think we will be enjoying another delicious whole grain recipe with Catherine, who will be making another delicious dish to start our day. So Catherine, let me just hand you my spatula over here.
All right, hold on.
I know it's a far reach to Texas, but I'm trying. You got it?
Okay, I got it. Oh God, that was
good
far.
job.
Thank you.
Good job. Catherine, before you get started, only because, Erin, you always get me thinking. So is that then a big difference between steel cut oats and regular oats on all of the properties that you gave? You gave additional protein. Like I had no idea there was that much protein in steel cut oats.
Absolutely.
That, for those of us trying to get our protein up, is it very similar in regular oats?
It is. So the biggest nutrient difference that you'll find between traditional oats and steel cut oats is the fiber. So there is more fiber in steel cut oats compared to rolled oats, but otherwise the amount of complex carbohydrates, the amount of protein that's in it, the other nutrients and antioxidants, the beta glucans that we find are pretty consistent between the two, but it's the fiber that you'll get a little bit more of a boost from.
Okay, perfect.
Great
Thank
question.
You. You got it. All right, Catherine, you're up.
All right, thanks. Well, I am also going to be using oats. Today, I will be doing a granola recipe. And since we are highlighting whole grains, I already mentioned I will be using oats. However, I am going to be using old-fashioned oats. I have about a cup here, and then I am also using quinoa. So I am actually going to be using the quinoa raw. I have about half a cup right here. I'm using white quinoa. So you might see that sometimes they come in red or black colors, or they do the tricolor. And to be honest, there might be a little bit of difference in flavor. It might be a little bit more earthy. However, their nutrition benefits are very much alike. They are both excellent sources for protein and for fiber, and they also have a good amount of essential amino acids. It's actually considered a complete protein, and it is a really good source of magnesium. So we'll be highlighting these two for the granola today. I also have here 2 cups of almonds. You guys can see here, they are sliced up. I have some brown sugar. I have a little bit of salt, and I have coconut oil, about 3.5 tablespoons, and about 1/4 cup of honey. So for my granola, I already started preheating my oven, which is something that I always forget. So before you do anything, just make sure that your oven is preheated. I have mine at 340 right now. And I also have a small saucepan here. So to start off, I'm just going to add my coconut oil. So all of my wet ingredients together, which is just that, the coconut oil and the honey, to make sure that I get more of like a liquid consistency and that it all mixes well together. This is gonna be maybe about a minute or 2 over the stove. I would keep it in a low setting, low heat, and that is just to make sure that it basically becomes like water. So, and then on my bowl, I'm just going to toss everything together while that is cooking over there. So I have my almonds, my quinoa, my oats, and for sugar, you can always adjust. I'm just going to do 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, and then just a pinch of salt. And then if you are looking, so this recipe is actually a little bit higher in calories because of the oils, and it has a lot of nuts. So if you're looking to gain weight and you like that crunch from granola, this is definitely a really good option to help get those calories while you're also getting some protein and some fiber into your diet. You can add it to yogurt, you can add it to salads, you can just have it as a snack with maybe some fruit. It's just such a versatile thing to add, especially if you're so into crunch, which is I can just crunch everything. So right here, I just mix this well, and that should be ready. Yep. So coconut oil melts very, very fast. So if you guys will see right now, it just looks like a clear liquid. And then I'm just going to add it into my mixture. This is what's going to tie everything together, all of my ingredients, and give it that additional sweetness. So I'm just going to mix it very well to make sure that everything is sticking together. This already smells so sweet. It smells so good. Okay. And then right here, I just have my dish to put into the oven. I added some paper to make sure that it doesn't stick. And then I'm just going to put it into place. It's going to look like a big old bar of granola, but then we're just going to crumble it up. So if you are actually into crunch as well, however, if you might be trying to control a little bit of those calories or working on some improving your weight, losing a little bit of weight, then some of the healthy swaps that you could do here could be changing the sugar for maybe a non-calorie sweetener like monk fruit. You can also decrease the amount of oil, maybe swap out the coconut oil for some applesauce or a little bit of peanut butter, getting some more protein in there. You can also play around with the almonds, so decrease there and then increase the quinoa. The quinoa is going to be a little bit lower in calories and still have all of those benefits, and it tastes so good when it's baked. It just, the smell that you get from it, it's similar to popcorn for some reason. So it definitely feels like a really good treat. Something else that you could do is, sorry, me just make sure this is looking good. Okay, perfect. So here is what it's going to look like. It looks very pale, but this is going to roast up really good. It's gonna come up to the smell that you get whenever you're in like a fair, and all you kind of just smell, like, even though it could be a mile away, you can smell when they're roasting almonds. You're gonna have that in your kitchen with this, and that's gonna tell you that it's ready. If not, just wait for 20 minutes and you should be ready. So I'm gonna put this in the oven, still at 340. All right. And then we are going to circle back and we'll see what that looks like. And then in the meantime, I am going to pass it over. Michelle, I'm pretty sure you could use a spatula as well, right? Yes.
Absolutely. I could definitely use a spatula for a few different reasons for this recipe. So I'm ready when you are, all the way from
All right.
Texas.
All right. I'm going to hand it to you.
Okay. Okay.
Right? Okay. You got it?
I got it.
Okay.
I can. Thank you. Hello, everyone. So good to be here with everyone. So continuing along with this green theme and the oats, I am doing oatmeal veggie burgers. They are so good. I know we say that all the time, but I was a little skeptical with this recipe, but there's so much flavor and they are so packed with nutrients. So not only fiber, but we have some protein. I will get into that a little bit more, but I want to get the vegetables started. So on medium, I've had my pan heating up, and I'm going to use some olive oil. You don't have to stick with olive oil. You can use avocado oil. That would be great, or the coconut oil, as Catherine mentioned. I am going to toss in my vegetables. So here I have some zucchini and some carrots. So a cup of carrots, cup of zucchini. I have some chopped onion.
Michelle, are your carrots shaved or are they finely chopped?
So a couple ways you can do this. You can grate them, you can shave them, or for convenience, you can buy them already shredded. I typically like to grate them. I feel it's a relaxing activity to scrub my carrots and grate them. But I did go ahead and buy the already grated carrots, and I love the bags are so packed that I'll be able to use it in my salads or, you know, whatever I have planned for meals the rest of the week. So
yeah, it's so good. It gives people options, right? And
absolutely.
time saver. Yeah, thank you for sharing
Absolutely.
that. I was gonna say
And
that took a lot of time to get them like that, Michelle. So I was like, wow, look at you.
all
You worked all
afternoon.
day.
I don't know if you noticed either. I used the zoodles. So same thing.
Ah,
Nice.
nice.
But full disclosure on that, my grocery store sold out of zucchini. So I thought, oh, this will work, save me some time. So yes, definitely a time saver with the zoodles and the shredded carrots. So if you're pressed
Very
for
good.
time or you just don't feel like cooking, that's a great way to save some time
Yeah.
and some energy. So
I think Michelle, you might have to tell everybody what zoodles are. I don't know if everybody knows that, you know.
yeah, so zoodles, it's just zucchini. So as we know, zucchini has the green, it's squash and it has the green on the outside as opposed to the yellow squash. And you can use a little tool, it's called a zoodler, and you grind it and it comes out like spaghetti. You could also use a good old knife and chop it into thin little match strips. But zoodles, a common thing that is done with zoodles is just making a stir fry, adding other vegetables, a protein perhaps, or you can pour spaghetti sauce or your favorite marinara on top of it. So instead of using pasta, you can get even more fiber by using the zoodles. So Thank you for asking
Love it.
that question.
Mhm.
Yeah. So going back to the oatmeal, and I wanted to mention that Erin's was steel cut oats, and she mentioned the old fashioned oats or rolled oats. So, Sue, I'm also glad you asked the question about the difference in nutrition. So, a cup of Erin's steel cut oats will have a lot more fiber, like she said, than a cup of my rolled oats. And that's from a density standpoint. So, her cup is going to have more density, more kernels, where mine is rolled so it won't take up as much space. So that's the difference between the two. And Erin and Catherine, thank you so much for all the explanation on the nutritional value for oats. So I don't have to go into that too much unless anyone has another question, of course. So going back to my vegetables, a couple things about the vegetables that I'm using. We talked a little bit about the zucchini, and on the outside is the green. That's where the fiber is. So if you don't peel it, you are getting more fiber. If you do peel it because you don't want that skin, still great. Of course, some fiber inside, but most of the fiber is going to be in the outside peel. And let's talk about the elephant in the room. Not everyone likes mushrooms. We know this. So some substitutions could be use more green zucchini or use more yellow squash. Maybe try a protein like adding more beans. We are going to be putting some beans in there, or perhaps using tofu or tempeh. So there's definitely other things that you can use. I hesitate to say leave it out because we still want that dense consistency. So just make sure you're more or less substituting than leaving it out. For the onions, I used a white cooking onion, but Vidalia, red onion, any type of onion that you have on hand will work great, okay? Maybe you have some broccoli or cauliflower that you want to use up, that'll work well, some bell peppers. So I love these type of recipes where it's like a clean your refrigerator out type of recipe and use what you have. All right, so we're going to cook these for like 5 to 6 minutes. But for the sake of time, I won't be cooking them that long. So what I will be using, in addition to the oats, brown rice. You can use white rice, whatever rice you have on hand. So short grain, medium grain, long grain, it's all going to work. Perhaps you can use a different type of grain, not rice. So what I do recommend, so this rice is on the sticky side. You do want to use something that's sticky, so maybe farro, but we do have other grains that are like quinoa. It wouldn't get as sticky unless you're really, really cooking it down. Right? The dog always shows up with the smells, especially when I start chopping.
So cute.
Yeah, until I trip over, and then it's not so cute. So with the brown rice, this is what's going to pull everything together and help us mold the burgers. Now, one other thing I like about this recipe is you're not using egg as a binder. You're using rice as the binder, okay? You can use eggs, but then you have to make sure that you're really cooking it through to make sure the egg is cooked through, right? But the best thing about these burgers are that they're so dense and nice and thick and very hearty, okay? I am also using red kidney beans. Again, the sky is the limit. White beans, black beans, garbanzo beans or chickpeas, whatever you have on hand, feel free to use. You can use dried beans as well. I typically use canned beans for the sake of convenience. So convenient this, the zoodles, the carrots, this can be a really quick meal for you. For the rice, if you have a rice cooker or an Instapot, that's great. We want to make sure that the rice is cooked. So I forgot to mention that. I typically cook my rice on the stove because I'm always doing things around the kitchen in the meantime. Don't be afraid of grains when you're cooking them on the stove. They can be a little finicky. So my water absorbed, but I didn't like the texture. It was still too chewy. So I added more water and then let it simmer for a little bit longer. So feel comfortable that you can manipulate your grains. All right. And vice versa. If your grains are nice and chewy and there's still water, then just drain the water. So make it easy. No worries. All right. Also with the oatmeal, we need to make sure that it is not cooked. So we're using uncooked oatmeal. All right. My vegetables are ready to go into my food processor. So that will be the first step. Always make sure to turn your stove off heat. And I'm just going to add the vegetables right into my food processor. You can cook your vegetables as long as you would like. There is no set time limit. I think the recipe might say 5 to 6 minutes, but whatever works for you. Okay. All right, now I'm going to add my oats. I have 2 cups of oats here. I have my kidney beans. And I have my rice. So 1 cup of cooked rice. So what I did was I measured out 1 cup of dry rice and I cooked it with 2 cups of water. And then I just pulled out 1 cup. It made a lot, but I just pulled out 1 cup and then I'll have some extra rice for the rest of the week. Just gonna rinse my hands off quickly.
Michelle, we had a question about if you really despise beans. Is there something else that you can substitute that for that you could think of?
Yeah, absolutely. I would go back to the tofu. You could even soak some cashews, maybe for a couple hours, and throw that in, and you'll still get that nice creamy consistency. So yeah, that's a great question.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. All right. So next, I will be adding 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. If you do not want to use the soy sauce, use salt. So if you notice, I did not use any salt in my vegetables. All right. Here, the recipe calls for 1 clove of garlic. That equals 4 in this household. So I'm just going to give them a quick chop just so they process evenly, and some thyme.
You're so funny. I love garlic too. And I actually was like, oh my God, have I been reading the recipe wrong? Like 1 clove is really like a whole bulb? But you're just joking, right, Michelle? Because you love garlic too. Yeah, yes, you love garlic as well. I do too. I love garlic so much.
I just added chives. The recipe says you can also add cilantro. I know not everyone is a fan of cilantro, so whatever herbs you would like. And I'm just going to process this. Push everything down. So we want to get it to that sticky consistency so we can make burgers out of them. So what I'm going to do is just process this a little more, shape one of the burgers, and then show you the finished product. So we can move on to my colleagues with their finished dishes. All right, there we go. So to make the perfect size burger, stop, there we go. That's how dense it is. I could not pull the plate out of it. All right. To make the
Michelle,
perfect, yes,
for those that are staying away from soy sauce, can they substitute like an amino acid?
absolutely, absolutely. Amino acids or nutritional yeast. That'll give it a nice
Oh,
flavor.
another good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice
so good.
flavor.
Mhm.
Yeah, nice savory flavor. Absolutely. Okay, so I just used half a cup, and there's my burger, and I just flatten it out. It's so beautiful and perfect. It's easy to shape because, again, I keep saying that word, the density, but it makes it really easy to shape. So you will refrigerate these for at least an hour. I've refrigerated them overnight. You can freeze them uncooked. You can freeze them cooked. And when you put them back in the pan, you're going to cook them 3 to 4 minutes on either side, depending on your stove. And then what will happen is, you see this beautiful golden brown color. So I have this on a bun. I have all my fixings here. I have some mustard, lettuce, and onion. You can even lay this on top of a bed of lettuce, or just eat plain on the plate like I typically do. Just pull it out of the refrigerator. So that is it. Sue, were there any more questions before I pass it over to Aubrey?
No, it really looks incredible. And I love that you can substitute, you have your base, but then you really can substitute the herb and the beans and the amino acid, and, you can really make it your own. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing such a good, flexible type of recipe that helps so many of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Very versatile. Okay, so Aubrey, you are on. I'm going to pass this over to you. Aubrey doesn't live that far from me, so it's not going to be a far reach. So I could have just driven over, but are you ready? Okay.
I'm ready. I'm grabbing it. I think I got it. Okay. Yeah, I got it. And don't pay attention to my holiday themed spatula. However, before I get started, because my recipe is very fast. It's really quick, which is great. That's what we want, right? We love these quick, easy, seamless recipes. However, before we get started with my recipe, I just wanted to touch on really this cooking methods 101, and also kind of the theme and how we got here. So with these cooking methods 101s, we started in January last year in Plantuary and started hosting them quarterly, which is very exciting. We've done carrots, we've done dark leafy greens. Last time we did our summer fruit, so we did berries. And if you don't follow us on social media, a couple weeks in advance of our Cooking Methods 101 virtual hangouts, we post a social media poll to see what you all want to be featured. So there were a lot of different options, and with resounding success, our fall favorite whole grains, because I know we're getting into that like warm, grainy soup season, won out. And so we were deciding to feature oats and quinoa. And I know oats and quinoa tend to be two of the whole grains that some of us are maybe more familiar with versus I know Michelle recently did a recipe with freekeh. We've got farro, we've got buckwheat, right? We have amaranth, so many different grains, but oats and quinoa we see in the store so often. And when we were thinking about recipes, typically we see oats in more of a, you could say, sweet fashion, right? You have them for breakfast, you have them with your maple syrup and your fruit on top. And then we typically see quinoa in a savory fashion. We're having quinoa with our dinner or on our lunch salad, and we're having it with spices. So we thought, let's flip the script, right? Let's have oats in a savory way. So we have our savory oat risotto, and we have our oat veggie burgers. And then let's maybe try quinoa in a sweet way. So we have the oat and quinoa granola. And then we have what I'm making today, which is a quinoa energy bite. So I love energy bites. I feel like they are such a perfect snack. If you've never heard of them before, they're essentially just little balls you'll see by the end that usually have some sort of grain in them, some sort of nut or nut butter, and then a binder kind of pulls it all together. Really great as a snack, especially if you're not feeling like you have a lot of energy to prepare something, they're typically going to be rich in a lot of nutrients. I know Jess is talking about how we have our events upcoming in the fall, and actually our dietitian team will be prepping some energy bites at our harvest event. So if you happen to be there, we'll be excited to have you try them. This quinoa energy bite is super simple. And I wanted to first start out by talking about, I will be using something called quinoa flakes. Let me back up first. If you're like, I don't think I want to go to the store and find quinoa flakes, you can absolutely use cooked quinoa. You would substitute for the exact same volume. So we're going to use a cup of the flakes, a cup of cooked quinoa. But I'll show you what it looks like. So quinoa flakes are very similar to, you could almost say, like a rolled oat versus a steel cut oat, which would be our whole quinoa. So I'm going to go ahead, I'll take this out of the packaging. I'm going to pour it into my measure, and then I'll show you what it looks like, just so that you guys can all see it up close. So these are our quinoa flakes. You can see it just looks very akin to oats. We need a cup of them. So this is a 3/4 cup measure. So I'll pour in. And then luckily my measuring cups have lines on the side to help me out in these scenarios. So another 1/4 cup. So these quinoa flakes are going to be still rich in protein. Same concept as our steel cut oats versus our rolled oats. These are essentially rolled quinoa. So the serving size of quinoa flakes is about 1/3 of a cup. 1/3 of a cup has 3 grams of fiber and 6 grams of protein. So not that you'll have necessarily 1/3 of a cup in one energy bite, but you're going to get a really good bit of protein from having some of these quinoa flakes. Also, and I'll show you the back because I feel like it's a good example, they cook up very comparably to oatmeal. So you could enjoy these quinoa flakes in the morning with breakfast, having some fruit on it in that kind of sweet way we typically see with oats. And that would be a great way to enjoy it as well. Again, 1/3 a cup is going to be a great source of both fiber and protein. So we'll put that off to the side now. So now we have our quinoa flakes in here. We're going to start adding some healthy fats. So luckily, none of my colleagues have yet dived into the healthy fats aspect of some of these things we're using today. So that gives me the opportunity to talk about it. We're going to use some chia seeds, which are a great source of fiber and healthy fats. And if you've never seen chia seeds before, they're going to be small, black, round seeds. So I'll show you what they look like too. I'm all about show and tell. So we're going to put in 2 tablespoons of chia seeds. And chia seeds are great because they make this kind of gelatinous mixture when mixed with water. We're not going to be combining them with water today or any liquid in that sense, but you could make a pudding, let's say, out of chia seeds by combining chia seeds with your favorite milk or non-dairy milk product. So really fun way to use those. Now on the healthy fat train, we're also going to put in hemp hearts. Considered another one of our seeds. We're going to put in 1/4 cup of hemp hearts here. However, hemp hearts are also a really rich source of protein. So these are really protein dense and fiber dense, as well as healthy fat dense. So specifically thinking about hemp hearts, they're going to be rich in what we call omega-3 fatty acids. So you've maybe heard of them before. However, omega-3 fatty acids are going to be really pivotal in our joint function, specifically thinking about reduction of inflammation. They're going to be a healthy source of fat for our heart. So I know Erin was talking about heart health previously. And also, if you didn't get the chance to read, a few months back, Michelle posted a wonderful blog about the food-mood connection. And so our omega-3 fatty acids have been linked to brain and mental health as well. So making sure you're getting adequate omega-3s from either plant sources like our seeds or animal sources like fatty fish, like salmon and tuna, is a really great way to support all of those various aspects. All right, so I've got my quinoa and I've got my seeds in here. Now I'm going to put in a little bit of coconut. So this is just regular unsweetened coconut. I haven't toasted it. You could toast it prior if you would like to get a little bit of that like smoky, toasty flavor, but I'm just going to put in 1/4 cup. The recipe calls for 1/2 cup. You'll see we'll use the other 1/2 cup later. So I'm going to go ahead. I'll put my heaping 1/4 cup in there. All right, and I'll leave this open because we're going to circle back to it. So now I'm going to put in some maple syrup. You could use honey, you could use maple syrup. The maple syrup is really doing a lot of the binding in conjunction with the nut butter we're going to put in. However, since there is nut butter in there that helps stick it all together, if you're thinking the 3 tablespoons that's recommended is too much, you could absolutely cut back. You know, you could put, let's say, 1 or 2 tablespoons to taste, and then you could add more if you need. Right, so 3 tablespoons in there. Perfect. All right, and now I'm going to put in just a little bit of vanilla extract. So I'm going to put in 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Gives it a little bit extra flavor. If you don't have this on hand, no worries. I'm almost running out here myself. You could also use something like a maple extract to give it a little bit of that mapley flavor if you're using maple syrup. All right, and then last but not least, we're going to put just a little sprinkle of salt, about a 1/4 teaspoon. And then our binder, which is our nut butter. So I'm just using traditional natural peanut butter. We need 2/3 of a cup. And I have here, I did preemptively stir my peanut butter because if you've ever used natural peanut butter before, you know that it often separates. So I'm going to measure out 2/3 of a cup here. You could use any nut butter. So you don't have to use peanut butter. You could use almond butter, use cashew butter. You could use sunflower seed butter, you know, if you're allergic to nuts, whatever you would like to use. I'm going to go ahead and put that in. All right. And one tip that I'm not following myself, however, if you're measuring something that's really sticky, like peanut butter, what you can do is you can actually spray with a baking spray the inside of the measuring cup first. That really helps so that it just pops right out. So things like honey and nut butter, it works wonders for. So now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to stir this all together with my spatula, so graciously passed over from Michelle. And while I'm stirring that, let me pause. Any questions on anything before we continue stirring?
Yeah, no questions from the audience. It all looks so good, and I can imagine the amount of protein in here. I would, is very packed full.
Absolutely. And I know, like you mentioned, Sue, I think a lot of us are trying to up our protein intake. You know, just as dietitians, we were doing some continuing education recently talking about the value of increasing protein, or maybe you're going to have surgery soon. So you want to make sure that you have plenty of protein in your diet. Having one of these little snacky bites is just a great way to get in a little extra, or any of these recipes for that matter. All right, so I'm just going to rinse off my hand. What we're going to do, really simple to prep them the rest of the way, is we're just going to shape them into balls. And the fun part is we're going to roll them in a little bit of coconut. So I'll first grab a plate. Like I said, you need about a 1/4 cup, the rest of the coconut, but I'm just going to be liberal and pour it on here. And what I'm going to do, which is not necessary at all, is I'm going to use a cookie scoop to form these, just so that they're all the same size. I find it helpful, especially if I'm meal prepping or saving them to freeze them. I like to use a cookie scoop to make sure things like this are all similar sizes. I'm going to roll it up so it's a better circle. And then I'm just going to roll it in the coconut. Give it a little extra coconut on the outside. If you don't like coconut, feel free to omit the coconut from this recipe. And here, I'll have my finished plate here. I'll just do 1 or 2 more so you can see what they look like. But really fun, and like Michelle's and everyone else's recipe, really flexible, right? You know, there's coconut in it, but you could omit that. There's different seeds in it, but you could change them. You could do flaxseed. You could do different nuts if you wanted to. You don't even need to get the quinoa flakes. You could do regular quinoa. So there's a lot of options, which I feel like makes these recipes and our cooking demos as a whole so accessible, which we always try to be, because cooking should be fun. It shouldn't be stressful. All right, so I'll just do this last one. That one's nicely coated in coconut. All right, and so I'll show you my finished product like Michelle. We have our quinoa energy bites here. Perfect little bite of protein, but then also fiber and healthy fatty acids. So we're really getting the full spectrum of all of our essential macronutrients that provide us with energy when we're having some of these energy bites. So I hope you guys try these at home. I'm gonna, I think, push it over to Erin, but let's see, do quinoa flakes cook different than regular quinoa? Yes, they do. They cook a little bit faster. It's similar to the discussion how Erin was talking about steel cut oats versus rolled oats. So they cook a little bit faster than traditional quinoa does because they are in the kind of rolled milled format. So the cooking instructions are usually on the box, but it's same thing though as quinoa, where you're doing 2 parts liquid to 1 part of the flakes. Good question. Any other questions?
No, they look delicious. And you can add a couple chocolate chips on there too if you
Oh
want
yeah,
to. Aubrey. Or some
absolutely.
cinnamon or cocoa powder.
There are so many ways to jazz them
many
up,
things.
so you can have so
Yes.
many different types.
Oh yeah, you could have fun with that. Thank you. They look amazing. I am hungry, as I'm sure our whole audience is. Always
Yes.
works that way. All right, I think we're going to bring Erin back. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, Erin, are
Yes.
you ready?
Oh, I'm ready. I've been
All
putting my
right.
spatula to work. Let me tell you,
Okay.
it has
Are you
earned its
passing
keep
any
tonight.
spatulas this time? Is there any magic going
No.
on with
No
the pass?
passing.
I
We're
think I
all
got it
done?
from the beginning. Yeah, but
Just
I've been
want to
working
make
it.
sure. Okay. All right. Very good. I mean,
All right.
the spatula changed colors. It changed words were on our
Dates,
spatula. Like you guys
words.
are
I know.
magicians.
Yes.
Yes.
I love it. So my risotto is done. So this is where the fun happens because now we can be creative with what we add to it. So let me show you, Sue, if you wouldn't mind bringing that second view, let me show you what the finished risotto looks like before we add our final ingredients to it. So on my stove, yep, there it is. So it's really nice and creamy. I ended up adding some more water to it, and I used the rest of my chicken stock. So it did require much more liquid. I kept going back and tasting for texture, but it's really, really beautifully creamy. So from here, I'm going to add a little bit of butter for some decadence. So I've got a couple tablespoons here. We'll let this melt in. You could absolutely omit this. I know Aubrey was talking about healthy fats, so we know this is a little bit more of an indulgent. If you want to finish this with a little drizzle of olive oil instead, by all means, go for it. I am using an unsalted butter because, again, that's an ingredient we want to control. Now we're going to add some greens. So I have some fresh basil here. I heard Michelle mention chives and use them in her veggie burgers, and I thought, I have chives in my refrigerator. So I'm also going to chop up some chives. So you can use any kind of fresh herb that you want. Parsley would be great, cilantro. Grab some frozen vegetables out of your freezer. I think frozen peas would be really wonderful. I also wish I had a lemon to use because I think with basil, using some lemon zest would brighten this, and that pairs really nicely. So again, like super, super versatile. Use what you have. So we'll just give this a nice rough chop. All of my chives. I think the sort of mild onion flavor pairs really nicely. So this I will just add to my risotto. I'm actually just going to bring it over to my cooktop. And yeah, we're going to finish adding everything, and I'll show you what this looks like. So herbs go in. And then some freshly grated parm. If you want to keep this entirely vegan, using vegetable stock would be great. Substituting parm with nutritional yeast would be wonderful. And again, omitting that butter, and maybe you're finishing with a drizzle of some good olive oil, would finish this dish perfectly. We get everything really well mixed together, and I'm going to show you what this looks like. So I've got my my ladle here. So we'll spoon a little bit. This is like comfort. This is fall. This is speaking to my soul is what this is. Okay. And then we'll add a little bit of fresh basil on top just for a little bit of garnish. And then we've got, here we go, our savory oat risotto. It's Oh my gosh, it's so good. And so because we have a little bit of cheese in here, it's got like a little bit more additional creaminess. Get out of town with that. It's so good. It's so good. It's really, it's just like, if you like savory, you could have this for breakfast. I'm a total fan of a savory breakfast.
I am too.
So I really
Yeah.
want to, yeah. This would be perfect. Fiber, protein,
I was
not
just thinking of
heavy,
that.
but filling. Oh yeah, so good. So this is wonderful. Yeah. So there's your savory oat risotto. And so, I think also we're going to circle it back to Catherine because her granola should be done too.
Yeah, you got it. Erin, how long will that keep in the fridge?
Great question. So stored in a refrigerator, safe container, you can keep it for up to 3 to 4 days. At most, you get a few more days if you're not adding some of the dairy, so the Parmesan and the butter. You could also absolutely sherry. Like grits is like right up your alley,
Sherry's
right? I
on
know.
it. Yeah.
Totally. So
So
you could
good.
100% do that. Or you can freeze it for up to 2 to 3 months. So this does make a lot. So save some for some leftovers and then freeze it for, when you want to have like a quick meal that you can reheat.
Yeah, I love it. And I do think that with Aubrey's, her protein balls, you can freeze those. I love freezing those protein balls and eating them. They're really good frozen. I've done that too. They're good.
Absolutely.
And then if you want to dip them in chocolate and freeze them, they're even good like that too.
Another good option.
Can you tell I'm hungry? All right, Catherine, take us away.
All right. Well, from savory back to sweet. So this has been ready for a couple minutes. When I took them out, I kind of just shuffled them around. They were very soft, but then now as it's starting to cool off, it's starting to harden and be that crunchy that we are looking for. So this is still hot. I will leave it for about an hour so that it becomes cool enough to actually serve. I already have some pre-made here. And just to serve it, I have some kefir here. Instead of regular yogurt, I'm more into liquid. And then now I'm gonna get this additional crunch. I'm gonna do about half a cup. So this is, because of the kefir is more liquidy, this is going to be more of like I guess a replacement for cereal. Instead of milk, the yogurt, and then some of the granola over here. So if you guys can see, this is what it looks like right here.
Looks good.
And then similar to saving, because we are, all of this cooking, and then we want to save some stuff for later. So this you can save it in maybe it's just like container or some Ziploc bags for about a week, and then you should be ready to go to add it to anything.
Awesome. And we also had a question on just how to reheat the frozen stored risotto. Would you have any tips on that, Catherine or Erin?
How to keep
The risotto?
Reheat? Yeah, reheat the risotto.
I'll speak to the risotto a little bit. Yep, Catherine.
When it's frozen.
Yeah. So what I would do is I would let it defrost in the refrigerator. So make sure you're taking out, put it in the refrigerator. And then you can do it one of two ways. So what I typically like to do is I will warm it in a pan, a small pan on the stovetop. Keep some additional liquid nearby. So if you have some leftover broth or water, as it's reheating, you may need to reconstitute a little bit of liquid into it, and then finish seasoning, and it should turn out just fine. You could also do it in the microwave. What I typically do in a bowl, microwave safe bowl, start at a minute at a time, and then you're going to cover it with a damp paper towel because that will help it to steam it a little bit. And that way you still get that creamy texture. So one of two ways, but first and foremost, I would let it defrost in the refrigerator.
Awesome. And then we also had just, for people who aren't a fan of nuts, they wanted to like incorporate fruit like apples, and how can you do that? Or pears. And I mean, there's just so many fun ways to bake your apples, bake your pears, stovetop, right? Like there's just so many ways that you can prepare them. But what do you guys think?
Like for Catherine's granola, you could definitely substitute, I imagine, some of the nuts, right? For like a dried fruit, like a dried apple or, raisins or other dried fruit. Yeah.
Or even some nuts. I mean, not nuts, seeds, like pumpkin seeds or sunflower seeds. So maybe if you're a fan of seeds, you want something that's a little bit bigger, you could do that as well.
Yeah. Or you can swap it with some leftover chia seeds from Aubrey's energy balls, some coconut. I feel like everything just blends in together.
Yeah, it really does. The recipes are just so versatile. Oh my God, versatile. They're virtual too today, but versatile. Yeah. Well, that was amazing. Thank you all. It's always good to sit here and listen to all of you and be a guest in your kitchen. I feel like I was a guest at each one of your tables today. So thank you for that. Really wonderful. All right. Well, that's a wrap, right? That is a wrap. So thank you for joining us this September. We have a lot going on in September, so please keep your eye out, as you know, on all these different speaker series, Ask the Experts, virtual hangouts. We're really working on having a robust time of year to get a lot of these questions answered. I'm going to share it one more time just so that you can get an idea of the calendar and that you do not miss it. So we have tomorrow is a stress less with our speaker series with Dr. Lorenzo Cohen. We also have the 18th, Redefining Intimacy, another virtual hangout, always a good, important topic. The 19th, we're going to be teaming up with Sunbasket, and they're going to be doing a cooking demo with us live, so get ready to cook with us. As far as our Ask the Experts on the 26th, ABCs and ovarian cancer, what's new and upcoming. And we are going to be joined with Dr. McCozel from Jefferson Abington Hospital. And then our last one is September the 26th, lymphedema and ovarian cancer and how to manage it, why it happens. And we have Dr. Tommy Buchanan. And then Rita actually is coming, and she is over with Revital, right, Erin? And she's going to join us. Thank you, Erin. So yes, always good to be able to get, what a great lineup, Erin. Thank you so much for that. And we'll be happy to be able to bring all of that to you this September. Again, we thank our sponsors. We're so honored to have them. Presenting sponsors, West, Merck, Daiichi Sankyo, and then we have support from Pfizer, GK, Lilly, Gilead, and AbbVie, who is now a part of Immunogen. All right. Anything else that I missed?
I don't think so. Sounds good. Yeah. We're off and running now.
You are the best. I know. And so tricky. Who would have thought that that would be the most fun, passing that spatula when we first did this about a year ago, right? Did we do this like a year ago? Or like, let's pass something. Let's pass something. Yeah. All right, guys, you are the best. Thank you.
Thank you
for having a fun Tuesday, fun Wednesday with us.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, Sherry. Stay safe. I see the hurricane's coming, so we're thinking of you.